This process, prior to 2014, and the change in process and rules had no guaranteed judicial oversight. Following a number of people losing their primary homes in this fashion led to a moratorium and subsequent amendment of the rules. But the amendment of the rules were not enough. There was need to amend the principal legislation to ensure there is a statutory process that sanctions the process that is envisaged under Rule 108 of the High Court Rules of 2014. It is for this reason that amendments to effect those changes and also bring the Magistrates Court provisions in line with the letter and spirit that provides scope for judicial oversight was introduced. During the initial debates, members of the National Assembly raised some concerns which we have taken the liberty to interrogate further before we retable the two bills for consideration and debate in the National Assembly. These consultations are a result of that decision. Under the provisions of the Namibian Constitution, public participation in the policy development, legal and institutional reform processes are a constitutional imperative. The consultation is therefore part of our ongoing efforts to receive public input on the legal and administrative reforms we are proposing to mitigate the impact on homeowners losing their private homes, and also to balance the interest of commercial banks and other creditors in their pursuit of financial sustainability, and to, in part, protect their contribution to the economy. The first consultations took place during February 2022, which primarily was with commercial banks, legal practitioners, and debt collectors. Since then, we have received substantial comments on the proposed reforms, which have now been compiled in a dossier which will be used as we streamline our thought process and prepare the Cabinet submission for collective consideration once our key consultations are finalized and the Office of the Judiciary is consulted for their further input and guidance on some of the practical implementation aspects. I therefore take this opportunity to welcome all of you here present today, but also to thank those that have already made comments and provided us with written feedback, and the growing interest in our consultative processes, which included the business community. The consultation today is of national importance. The attendance and interest that has been shown so far certainly reaffirms the fundamental importance of public consultations, and it certainly expresses the pressing need for reforms in this particular area. Namibia has a population of about 2.6 million people, and of this number, it is reported that 43.3% of Namibia's population are still living in multidimensional poverty. Over the past few years, homeowners have been at risk or have in some cases lost their primary homes. Specifically, the poor and vulnerable members of our society are more at risk, and as a nation, we must be concerned and do what we can, even when it will require some changes that are not convenient. Namibia's economic order under Article 98 of the Namibian Constitution is based on the principles of a mixed economy, which objective is to secure economic growth, prosperity, and a life of human dignity for all Namibians. The intention here, unlike what the doomsayers suggest, is to have a general discussion and mortgage holders experience the legal and commercial bank processes. It is not intended to be a panacea to solve the housing crisis in Namibia or encourage people not taking responsibility for their part in the debt. But it certainly is intended to avoid people losing their land or homes if there could have been alternative ways of resolving the debt management problem many of our citizens face. The hostility created between legal practitioners in particular, some legal practitioners, those that are in debt collection, and members of the public is really unfortunate, and it does not augur well for the values and aspirations enunciated in the preamble of our Constitution. The process of collecting debt at all costs, and in the process subjecting many of the debtors to abuse and humiliation, goes against the letter and spirit of our constitutional provisions on human dignity, non-discrimination, and equality before the law. It cannot be that a collective solution cannot be found to solve the financial constraints we all find ourselves at individual and national level. Following a highly publicized consultation with commercial banks and legal practitioners on the execution process, my office started receiving numerous pleas from members of the public seeking assistance as a last resort before the auctioning of their properties. Fellow Namibians, it is for this reason that I have invited the public today to this very important consultative meeting, to be part of this deliberation which is aimed at providing possible solutions to this issue which threatens the right to property of our citizens, but also is likely to impact on our economy, as we acknowledge the role financial institutions play in the growth of our economy. We therefore intend to ensure that there is a balancing act during this consultation and in the reform process. In light of the reform process and the proposals, we are attempting to ensure that there is a more participatory, flexible, and mutually beneficial approach to execution proceedings. The process is one currently favoring the execution creditors, who are mainly the banks and its representatives, as they can afford the high legal costs associated with the proceedings, particularly that there are, in some instances, no consequences, no accountability for those representatives that scrupulously exploit members of the public that are in the unfortunate position that they find themselves party to execution proceedings without representation. This is a predicament that we as a nation should address together in a lawmaking process that consults the people to enact laws made for the people by the people. The person mostly affected by law is often the ordinary Namibian citizen, trying their best to make ends meet. During this consultation, we want to hear your voice. We want to share your stories with lawmakers and creditors. We want to make sure that the amendments will reflect the broad discussions we intend to have here and with some additional key stakeholders, such as local authorities in the near future. So speak candidly, honestly, with respect, and with a view to find collective solutions. We are not here to fight. Namibia is all we have, and we must ensure that what we say here supports the overall plans under the Harambee Prosperity Plan, the National Development Goals, Vision 2030, and allows us an opportunity to re-image and reimagine our policy, legal and institutional frameworks for the benefit of all our people. And in the words of Hlumela Biko, that we reimagine Africa to reclaim a sense of abundance and prosperity. Welcome, and thank you very much.